So here today we have a Kasho KDM. It should be a semi-convex. You can see where that light is glinting just at the edge there. That's probably close to the original angle, but if I rotate around, there is the actual angle that these have last been sharpened. And basically what's happening is that, there's the original sharpening angle, and they've been blunted up so bluntly that they've been basically put into paper cutting scissors instead of hair cutting scissors by the blunt angle. I can see here that again, let's go right up to the tip, and the original angle is at the top, and you can see there's been a couple of times where a person's lifted up and caused a little bit of a round out at the tip, but we roll up to the actual last time it was sharpened is down here. There's the actual last angle, and I'm sure that once I go to measure this, we'll probably find this somewhere around 20 to 25 degrees, which is a far cry from the original 45 degrees that Kasho puts as the factory angle on the Kasho KDM. Hi fellow sharpeners, this is another good example where a rideline gets disconnected because it's been overground on the outside, causing a huge dig down into the hollow grind. So you can see this is a Kasho KDM, and this is the first few swipes. Got a rideline started at the tip, and you can see it disappears to nothing. There's no rideline in the back area near the pivot area. You can see that it really stands out using the light as a reflection throughout this whole area here. We're going to have to restore. We have to basically work this area down so that the metal is descending down further into the ride line area, and we'll have to rejoin that ride line. So here's that same shear. Turn around and use the 1000. Actually, I had to go down to 300 grit diamond plate, and then do 1000, then come back up to 2000 grit. Rejoined the ride line throughout this whole close to pivot area, and taking it right out to the tip. So that's how that shear now looks, and now we can proceed to sharpening the outside. So this is what some sharpeners will do. We've actually measured these ones that the edge angle has been blunted up to 25 degrees. And what they're doing is they're trying to preserve the appearance of the outside, that the edge is staying nice and small. And what that does is it totally changes the cutting performance of that shear. Every time it goes blunter and blunter, it becomes more and more like a shear or a scissor that'll cut paper rather than hair. So what we have to do is basically reshape the outside down so that we can turn around and get back to a proper 45 degree angle. But that means that the outside has to be tapered down a lot more and give that nice smooth appearance down to the semi-convex edge that the Kasho KDM is known for its cutting. So this is a Kasho KDM. This has now been restored back to the 45 degree angle. This is a progress step. This is still 120 grit, but you can see from the profile as to how much deeper that edge comes, and you'll see by how much wider the edge is because we're getting back into the core. So now what we'll do to give this a better performance and much longer longevity by the shear, going to restore or grind down the outside to give us a much smaller semi-convex edge, giving a higher performance back to the way it was from the original factory. So this is a true repair type process, trying to get the shear back to function and performance like it did right from the factory. So this is a progressive step. We're restoring, basically hand remaking the outside profile of the shear. So we've taken the outside up to 55 degrees, 10 degrees sharper than the edge. So we're reprofiling the outside. And this is just a straight bevel, and I'm leaving about a 1 millimeter or less than a millimeter, aiming for about the 1 millimeter edge at the outside edge of the blade for the final semi-convex. So now we'll turn around and blend this whole 55 degrees, so 55 intermediate angle step to bridge that all back in. So there's not this harsh break for the outside shaping of the blade. So here's that intermediate progressive step. We turn around taking that hard bevel edge for reshaping the outside. This has all been convexed, shaped back down to our new semi-convex point. And this has all been done with 400 grit abrasives at this point. So now we'll get into the refinement, refining that edge and getting up to the cutting point. And because it's the KDM, we want a satin finish on the outside, so I'll finish this at 600 grit and we'll polish up the finished cutting edge. So here's this Kasho reassembled. Basically, we've hand reworked, basically almost handmade the shear back to the factory design. And we've got a nice satin finish all the way on the outside with a nice soft semi-convex bevel on the inside. The last thing is, because this shear is in this configuration, the tips can get very pointy, so always ask your stylist or your client if some of them do like very pointy shears. This shear, I think, is, because of how pointed it is, might have to be shortened to make the edges a little less dagger light and a little safer. So never assume that the stylist would not like that, and keep the points working for the way the stylist wants to work with the shear.